please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic?
Captain's Log, Subdates 23.1123.4. We will be plotting our course through the Hollow Earth tunnel, but it will be a bit tight, giggity. So we'll need our best pilot wired as much as possible. As that happens to be Book, we're going to load him with all the Pro Plus we can replicate, essentially making him the avatar and god of caffeine. Hello everyone, welcome to the exhibition of stupid people. Today we're going to start with the LOLcow Live podcast. There are a few episodes in now. After Boogie was fired, he's losing out really, because I think as a part of it, it could have been something special. But another person who you can argue is also losing out is Darkside Phil. Since Boogie was fired, Wings has had a few good episodes so far. I've quite enjoyed this. It's very enjoyable, and I think that I hope it will go quite far. I hope it continues to grow. DSP, Darkside Phil, was one of the original people who was asked to be a part of this by Keemstar, who really wanted it to be him, Wings, Boogie. Got Wings and Boogie, and Tommy C filling in the gap for DSP. Boogie obviously got fired because Boogie's a moron. Video on him dropping in December. DSP though, since the LOLcow Live podcast has begun, has just continued his love of the podcast and the entire point of it by endorsing it at every opportunity. I feel like with what you're about to see, it can all be regarded as cope, salt, and bitterness from somebody who couldn't make one good decision to save his entire career. Evidence of which will be played now.
Because I'm the LOLcow, right? With the LOLcow Podcast, okay? That's what people want to be involved in, to literally just be a bullying group. I mean, it should really be called We Bully People Podcast. That's all it is, the bullying podcast.
Obviously, I have to cut this up, splice it, because it comes from the LOLcow Live podcast. I will link the LOLcow Podcast Live down below. As you can tell though, Phil is not happy with this show existing, and I can't imagine why. Is it because perhaps you're not involved and you've seen it get decent views and realised I could be making a stable income and be a part of something if I could learn to 1. Introspect, 2. Take a joke, 3. Laugh at the past because I've made enough mistakes anyway and they need to be laughed at, and that means 4. Not take myself so seriously, and 5. Try to not waste the money I would have gotten on that podcast if I was on the podcast on more skins, more microtransactions for more mobile games that I also suck at.
We just bully people all day like it's a fucking schoolyard of people beating down on people. That's what the show is, right? There's no respect. There's no intention of actually helping people or doing something positive. That's a toxic show. That's the point. Boogie and Wings, they shop at Walmart, right? Anything to get ahead, anything to make a buck, anything to fucking get them to a position where they're doing something because they need that, right?
As you saw from all that you've seen, Phil is quite sensitive to this, while simultaneously giving the LOLcow Live podcast all this free promotion, which there's nothing wrong with, really, is there? But it is on the face of it quite amusing to think that this guy still can't, well, for one moment, make the right decision for himself, which would have been to be on the show. Hell, with Boogie out, he could join, surely, right? I mean, it'd be great if he did. Failing that, there are a number of LOLcows on the internet who could take his place. I would have included Ethan Ralph, but he has 3 words in his arsenal that he really shouldn't keep saying at the moment. But he's so desperate to say them because it's the only words he has that he just can't not say them. He couldn't do it to arrange a fight with Andy Warski. 3 words, that's all he had to drop for 12 weeks, and he couldn't do it. Now, totally hypothetically, if you were to have someone, a LOLcow, be a part of the LOLcow podcast, who would you pick and why? And tell me in the comments, because I kind of want to know. I would love to see Darkside Phil on there. I think that would be very interesting. But there are other LOLcows over the years, and I'd like to see them on. Hell, if Dragon Lord speaks enough English, I'd love to see him on one day, if he's not already in prison.
I don't need that. I'm successful. I have a business. Except that last night, I got the notification that I have no money, and I was like, that really sucks. You know, every day the money I get from tips, I'm transferring to my bank account. So essentially, I'm overdrawn. for them to tell me that I have that, the notice that you're, no balance or whatever.
If you would like to help Darkside Phil in his time and desperate times of need, coffee.com/TheRealOmegon9873. You can donate any amount you like, and I'll make sure he gets it. Totally.
When you're watching that LOLcow show, oh yeah, I'm milking people today. Like, huh? Like, what? You think that's fine? You're milking a human. Okay?
Do you think it's a bit ironic that you, Darkside Phil, who forgot to turn their stream off and camera by extension to milk himself, is having a look down at those who have streams commentating on others that you have determined to be a form of milking? Is it ironic? It feels ironic.
Not even for sus. You're not milking them for milk. You're milking them for profits, for money. You're dehumanizing the person. You're literally categorizing them as an animal. The name of the show is the LOLcow Show or the LOLcow Podcast. Because I'm the LOLcow, right?
Pretty much, yes. In fact, your actions over the years have built you a reputation that you are a LOLcow. Many LOLcows cannot laugh at themselves. They can't do it. You mention milking an audience, but that's what you do when you e-beg for donations all the time. I bothered to go and click on one of your streams recently, and the very moment I clicked on it, you were asking for donations to pay for one of your bills. Bitch, if you're successful, why are you begging it? Anyway, as you can see, Darkside Phil loves the LOLcow podcast, and I can't wait for him to go on one day and then rage quit after one stream, or podcast show, whichever you prefer. Moving on, let's talk about something different, like, I don't know, the Marvels bombing. Last week on this channel we spoke about the Marvels movie, and I did think there was a chance, if promoted a bit more, the Marvels could climb back up, claw back a bit. Yeah, perhaps it could do better in the long run, if given the proper promotion it needed. Well, Captain Marvel, upon setting one record, being the lowest grossing opener for an MCU movie, overtaking The Incredible Hulk? Is it that way? Reverse overtaking, let's go with that. With an opening weekend of $46.1 million compared to The Incredible Hulk's $55 million, suffered a 74% decline in its second week, which is, well, the largest for a comic book movie in its second weekend, meaning it now has another record, because in its second week it earned 10.2. This is a phenomenal financial failure for Marvel. It is the 33rd movie in the MCU, and the third in Phase 5, because Phase 4 was balls. Phase 5 is hardly getting any better. This has done worse than Morbius, which is impressive really, isn't it? Many articles I looked at that were covering this couldn't quite tell yet, because there has been a lot of diminishing returns with the MCU, whether or not this is a sign of more to come, or whether it is because of bad writing, or whether it is because of superhero burnout. I believe it is a combination of all three. I don't think the superhero concept resonates much now, because everything has to be something diverse to hit a quota, and the stories are all the same. I do believe the law of diminishing returns comes into effect because your big hitters have already had their trilogies. I also think bad writing and promotion takes place because you are desperate to push particular messages that do not resonate with the actual fans as opposed to the ones you're trying to appeal to, the casual fans. Following the release of the Marvels, Brie Larson had spoken about what's next for her character. Quote, "I think there is still so much inside of Carol. I feel like getting to be on this team just cracked her open in a way she hadn't been, and I really loved that for her. I just loved her letting the shoulders drop a bit and not need to feel like all the responsibility was on her. So I think that there is so much more to go. She is just a great character to continue to grow with. It's like I am growing, she is growing." Based on the box office, I couldn't disagree more. And the only thing people are waiting for is for someone like Rogue to come and take your powers. The only reason Carol Danvers manages to let her shoulders drop in the sequel movie, as you put it, is because there are two other characters with powers equal to your own. The responsibility, though, based on the trailers I saw, indicates it's still all on your shoulders. Iman Vellani, one of the actresses from this movie, had said, "I don't want to focus on something that's not even in my control, because what's the point? That's for Disney CEO Bob Iger." Yes and no. Don't forget here that if movies perform badly and you are one of the leading stars of it, your career can be negatively impacted because of it. So it falls on your shoulders as well as it does anyone higher up. Of course, for Disney right now, they really do need to find a way to make this work, because the budget was about 220 million and it's only made 161. It won't even break even by the time it's finished unless something changes. And I mean break even when you include all the promotion. Granted, not as much, but millions would have been spent on it. I saw it on buses at the very least. So we know money had been put into this. They just played a different game this time after realizing Brie Larson's mouth writes checks and the receipt will hurt them. Yet they were desperate to keep her because she's an Oscar winner. Iman also said, "The box office has nothing to do with me. I'm happy with the finished product, and the people that I care about enjoyed the film. It's genuinely a good time watching this movie, and that's all we can ask for with these films. It has superheroes, it takes place in space, it's not that deep, and it's about teamwork and sisterhood. It's a fun movie, and I'm just so happy that I can share it with people. That might be another issue there, sisterhood. There is nothing inherently wrong with the concept, but don't forget here, the core audience are guys. If the characters don't resonate with the vast majority of the viewer, then all you've done is made a virtue signaling product that girls don't really give a shit about, which has been a recurring problem for a while. Instead of what Marvel are currently doing, the trajectory they're on, if they really want the success they had at the start, they need to stop making movies people don't want. Don't forget here, you've already renamed Captain America. You're so obsessed with trilogies, you're not keeping characters around for long enough for them to continue and hand off at the right time. You are ending stories after trilogies. I get the whole 3 movies kind of cool thing, but it is possible to do more. It's not always going to be like Thor, which could actually be saved if they do a 5th, if they went with Mangog. Yeah, that could be interesting. Moving on, honourable mention goes to YouTube. Why? Because of this. It took you long enough though. By the time you'd actually bother to monetize it, I had already gotten the most views I could get out of the video. Thank you for taking so long to finally make a decision on something. The fact I have to keep appealing things is a damning statement for how sensitive your system is. I'm hardly controversial. Next, let's talk about one of my favourite chocolate companies, Hotel Chocolat. They were trending, as were Mars, because Mars recently bought Hotel Chocolat, and this has me and many people quite worried. For example, Ross Chapman. I'll tell you exactly how this will go down. In 2023, Mars buys Hotel Chocolat. 2024, Mars starts putting in cheaper ingredients. 2026, Hotel Chocolat moves from chocolate to the confectionery aisle. I quite like Hotel Chocolat and I've just bought myself a lovely wreath box for Christmas, or Moistmas. Oh. Ian retweeted, my prediction, 2024, branches start to close. Brand becomes just another make on Morrison shelves. And 2026, Hotel Chocolat brand is quietly dropped and its remaining employees made redundant in order to save costs and pad the books at Mars Inc. Hotel Chocolat agreed to a £534 million takeover offer from Mars. As a chocoholic, I'm not okay with this, because Mars will undoubtedly change the very formula of the chocolate, but I'm not hating on the business part, not even slightly. No, I just want you to all donate to my coffee so I can buy more for when they do go under, and it's entirely their fault. The final thing I want to talk about is an article from Daily Mail titled Gen Z TikTokers Send Bin Laden's 2002 Letter to America Viral. This one might get me demonetized. An open letter to the United States by Osama bin Laden justifying his 9/11 attacks has gone viral on TikTok by being found by pro-Palestine Gen Z TikTokers. The letter to America was circulated amongst British Islamic extremists in 2002. It was published on The Guardian's website in its entirety, based on a translation it obtained under a link titled Read the Bin Laden Letter in Full. The Guardian removed the letter because people began sharing it in the context of Israel and Hamas. One user had said, "Just read it, my eyes have been open. I think this has made a lot of people realise that even villains can speak the truth." Are you understanding why The Guardian, for the sake of optics, were not overly fond of this being something on their end? Give it time and I'm certain the same morons from Gen Z will take Mein Kampf and find a way to also make it seem like the villain can speak the truth. Optics are very important, and I believe in the context of TikTok, many think there's something philosophical about it. I like to employ the idea that you can still be on the wrong side of an argument, but be correct about something else. In the context of this though, you've had to falsely equate it for it to be a reality for you. So you can virtue signal and dunk on America. That's the main crux of it. Any excuse to crap on America. And I don't think that these TikTokers that have been promoting this letter realise just how bad they look when they promote it, in the manner that they do, because by doing so you make it seem like he was on the right side of history for something he really wasn't.